Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another EPL Index Transfer Roundup. Ladies and gents, the manager merry-go-round, the head coach merry-go-round, if you want, is in full swing, isn't it? That is what dominates all the papers on Thursday, the 23rd of May. Let's just delve right into it. I mean, this first one, and you'll hear me say this a few times today, by the way. I'll say multiple outlets. You may have your favourites that you read, your columnists, Times, Telegraph, wherever, etc. But naturally, with the big stories, there's a lot of common reporting, isn't there? So I'll just say various outlets, and you can pick if you want to go and disseminate it somewhere else. So various outlets. I mean, this one. What happens when you bring Burnley up from the Championship? Yes, record number of points, interesting style, Burnley. You then buy quite a lot of random players from random clubs all over. Everything at the football club is geared around you at Burnley. You get relegated with a really low points total. What happens? Well, you get the Bayern Munich head coach job because having been turned down by the likes of Xabi Alonso, Nagelsmann, Hansi Flick, Ralph Rangnick, Thomas Tuchel almost 2 or 3 times, depending on which rumor when you believe, Lopetegui, who picked West Ham even. Vincent Kompany is set to become the Bayern Munich head coach. It's almost crazy just saying that, isn't it? Yes, an unbelievable player, but head coach to go from Burnley to Bayern Munich, I will let you make your decision or take your own opinion on that naturally, but that is the one that dominates all the headlines. So we're almost, and you never know because it's Bayern Munich and there's always drama there. But the expectation some point today or tomorrow, Vincent Kompany will be confirmed, and that leaves Burnley with a managerial hole. Also, speaking of potential managerial holes, and again, it's right to say various outlets, Ipswich's Kieran McKenna, the former Manchester United coach, who's taken them up in double promotions and they're now set to have a Premier League season. He's the hot property, isn't he? So a lot of the reports saying various outlets have that Ipswich are trying to naturally offer him a bumper new contract as best they can do to fend off the interest because there is many clubs apparently interested. Chelsea seems to be prominent. Even Manchester United's mentioned, whether you believe that or not, because of the outside links. But Ipswich are trying to keep Kieran McKenna. On the other side, quite a few have got that various outlets again. Chelsea are in the mix. So Kieran McKenna. Now, it's important to say in these various outlets, none of them have him as the front runner, but in the mix. That's right to say. So Kieran McKenna is definitely one to keep an eye on. Speaking of managers in this manager merry-go-round, a bit of a longer one, this one, maybe a manager marathon, it's right to say. The Telegraph has the story that England, if Gareth Southgate, as expected, leaves his post after the Euros this summer, will move for Mauricio Pochettino. Yeah, the head coach who's just left Chelsea by mutual consent. You can see all the crazy ongoings, outgoings there. The Times on the other side is saying that same name, Pochettino, and a few others, it's right to say, various outlets, but the Times had it more in depth. A serious looking at Pochettino if Eric Ten Hag departs Old Trafford and Manchester United. So you can almost see everything is whirring around. The manager merry-go-round is just absolutely insane. Other things to mention that, and again, similar to Kieran McKenna, a manager that's just come up from the Championship, or a head coach, if you want to call it that, Enzo Maresca at Leicester. Various outlets, again, multiple outlets reporting that he has a figure of £7 to £8 million in his contract if clubs do want to try and obtain him. And the reason I'm mentioning that is that, again, various outlets have got that he is in the mix for the Chelsea job. And I keep mentioning the mix, don't I, for the Chelsea job. Maybe the important reason is because The Athletic very much got a feature piece, if you're a subscriber, well worth the read, that Chelsea specifically already have a short list of candidates to replace Pochettino. They've actually already spoken to someone, according to this report in The Athletic, and they're hoping to make an appointment in the next few days. So Chelsea, United, Burnley, Bayern Munich. I might as well throw it in. I know it's not Premier League, but just wider afield. Hansi Flick even is mentioned for Barcelona as a favourite. So the manager merry-go-round around Europe is in full swing, and it knocks onto the Premier League. We even know, it's kind of surprising there was nothing in the papers today, because yesterday, with De Zerbi leaving Brighton, quite a few had Kieran McKenna as the front runner. But interestingly, no one saying they mentioned in their article, they're all talking about Ipswich trying to fend him off, but they don't specifically name check Brighton, which is a little bit bizarre. But this is gonna dominate the next few weeks or so, isn't it? The manager merry-go-round is in full swing. And we might as well get back to the players a little bit as well. What are the headlines from sort of the playing bits as well? So quite a few outlets, probably the Mirror's an interesting one to keep an eye on, have mentioned that Arsenal particularly are ready to make a move as a backup for Feyenoord keeper, and I probably pronounced this wrong, but Justin Bilio, 26, as they're expecting Aaron Ramsdale to depart. Now, Biljo, that's how it's pronounced, was linked with Liverpool the other day as a possibility, which is interesting, and that was from the Dutch report. But now the British media and the Mirror have got that. Aaron Ramsdale, again, another player who's been linked with a lot of moves. The talk to Newcastle was quite revved up, wasn't it, a few weeks ago? Then he did that tweet that it was news to me, and that kind of put a question mark around it. But I think a lot of people with Raya set to make that move permanent, Arsenal are going to pay the 27 million, are expecting Ramsdale to move on. And interesting that quite a few clubs, by the sounds of it, are interested in Bilio from Feyenoord as a backup keeper. Bit of an expansion on the story we talked about yesterday. We said that Tottenham are interested in Dominic Solanke, and the TalkSport, the boys there have got it that they're prepared to offload Richarlison to fund that at the same time. Now, quite a few times Richarlison's been linked already to Saudi clubs this summer, so that sounds one to keep an eye on, realistically. I know he's got an injury at the moment, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to Solanke, because that name keeps being mentioned to Spurs, and what Richarlison will do at the same time. Team Talk's got an interesting piece that Napoli, Nigerian striker, big name, Victor Osimhen, is set to reject interest from PSG and from Saudi Arabia to sign for Chelsea on the premises, the article says. Obviously got the Drogba link, but I think, let's be honest, Chelsea do massive money contracts, don't they? They do the 9 years on big money. So that's one to keep an eye on. Another interesting one to keep an eye on, because he's been linked with a move to Saudi. Now he's 32, but the Athletics got that Kevin De Bruyne, the City Superstars reps, held conversations with San Diego FC. Been no official mention. The article does say that it's not definitive he's looking to move, but they have held talks, maybe one to keep an eye on. Centre backs to London, dual piece, kind of a bit of an expansion that Fabrizio Romano has said that West Ham are in advanced talks to sign Flamengo centre back Fabricio Bruno, 28 years old. So that is one to keep an eye on. And it's been mentioned, it's fully expected to happen now, that the Standard's got it that Crystal Palace agreed personal terms with the Morocco and Real Betis centre-back, Chadi Riyad. So in a deal that's around, depending on how many euros you get at Tesco, £14 million. So there you go. It's expecting that Palace, of all clubs, might actually get the first signing of the summer centre-back. But naturally, as a lot of articles put, that throws up question marks, doesn't it, over Mark Gay and what that might mean. So one there. The Mirror's also got that Jordan Pickford has given a clear indication he wants to remain at Everton, despite the transfer interest from Chelsea, a specific interest in him, but we'll have to see what happens with Everton's financial woes. And a name that we'll probably mention now, and we might well mention throughout the transfer show, because there's definite interest in him from Premier League clubs. Benjamin Sesko, 20 years old, who's had an unbelievable finish to the season at Red Bull, hasn't he? Scored goals galore, probably you could argue. The informed striker in Europe, potentially. The release clause is known, but as Romano says, Chelsea, United and Arsenal very much have this player on their radar. So will be interesting to see what happens with the 20-year-old striker. Couple of expansions on articles we mentioned before, but you're almost surprised if they don't happen now. So it's important that we mention them. Team Talk and a few others have got that Newcastle are closing in on the free signing, specifically of Lloyd Kelly from, well, who'd been released by Bournemouth, I should say, and Tosin, whose contract with Fulham is set to end. So it looks like two new centre halves are set to come in at Newcastle. That's expected to happen, and it makes sense for them a lot in terms of where they are with FFP. And also, we know about the likes of the injuries to Botman. Shah's been playing a lot, Lascelles. They've got injury issues, haven't they, there? So, yeah, it would make sense. Good moves all round there, I'd say. One that also gets mentioned in the article is that they have an interest in Michael Olise, but there's high demand from a lot of clubs, a lot of interest. I think, yeah, all the major clubs are going to be expected to inquire or be kept informed, shall we say, around Michael Olise, who's not made the French squad for the Euros. And the final one, that there's a few outlets around this, it's worth mentioning. Bruno Fernandes. It says that United are not open, and it seems pretty unanimous in all these articles, are not open to allowing him to move, despite interest from a few European clubs. But again, as is named, Saudi. That's important to say. So there's quite a few articles kicking around with Saudi clubs that way. So yeah, manager hijinks, all those types of things. I suppose that there's probably a couple of other things just to mention. Somerville, the Leeds winger, the Championship Player of the Year, he has done an article saying he's, his only plan is to get Leeds promoted. There's a lot of supposed interest. There's quite a few articles saying him from the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, etc. If Leeds get promoted, maybe answers the question. If they lose the playoff final, there's probably something to answer in that regard. And that, ladies and gents, was your EPL Transfer Daily on Thursday, the 23rd of May. Have a good day.